appreciate y'all taking time out of your evening to spend some time here with us about the machine. If you're on the West Coast, you're welcome. We got you out of work a little early tonight. Tonight we're going to talk a little different. It's not just necessarily about when do I do a multi-head, when do I do a single head. It's also going to be why do I do both, all right? And what we're trying to do here is actually getting some shirts done for here at the office as well. It's give you an example of why you want to use both. But let's talk a little bit about the machines basically to start off with. The basic machine most people start off with back here is the Avance 1501C. It's a great starter machine, great way to get your foot into the door of the embroidery business. And as you start to learn, as you start to get into this business, embroidery is all about time, right? And so this machine will work harder than you will, all right? Feel better now, Frank? All right, Frank in here is a little bit better. Thanks for covering me up there, Mark, in the recording.
Yeah, no
he does that on a regular basis. So basically, with a single head, you can run it as many hours as you need to get your jobs done. The machine will run 24 hours a day. However, that means you need to be awake 24 hours a day. You need to be doing your maintenance on the machine 3 times during that day because you're basically running for 3 days. And things like oiling the hook and cleaning out the area of the bob, you're going to be doing that every 4 hours. All right? But the machine will work harder than you will, trust me. At some point in your life, in your business life, you're going to come to the determination is, I'm spending too many hours right now working with the machine, right? And I need a break. So that's when you start to look at the multi-head. I'm looking here at the single. I mean, the multi, you can't even see. This is actually a 6-head. A 6-head machine is literally going to do, in the same period of time, 6 times the amount of work. All right. Obviously, you're going to have to be a little bit more on your game when it comes to back to us here. When it comes to having things prepped and ready to go, but a 6-head machine is going to be sewing basically the same speed on the designs, and 6 shirts are getting done at once instead of 1 shirt getting done at once. So that's when you make your logical transition. But let's get back to the single head real quickly here. Single head is a complete package. When you get it as a starter, it's going to come with all your hoops and frames. We have an embroidery because, as I mentioned before, time is what it's all about. We give you 2 of everything. You have your 9, your 12, your 15, sorry for the mess here, and your 21 centimeter hoops. You also have got your 12 by 12 jacket backs. You get 2 of each of those so that while you're sewing, one on, you have one off that you're unhooping, one that you're prepping. That one is you've unhooped, you're prepping the next to get the next one ready. As soon as the machine stops, you're throwing it in, you're going. You're also going to get one of these monsters here, which is a 15 by 21. We're doing some patches with it right now. You'll do anything large, maybe a blanket or something like that. You'll do with it. There's a table that's included. We have underneath of it right now to help keep the bounce down on bigger and heavier items. You're also going to get your cap driver, and you're going to get your cap gauge and 2 of the wide cap frames. So we have a cap right here that's hooped up. I can do 2/3, 3/4 of the way around the hat, 270 degrees around the hat. That's your single head. It's going to hold 200 designs up to 2 million stitches. Great place to start out getting into the embroidery industry, and it's certainly a nice complement to the multi-head. All right, and that's what we're going to kind of talk about a little bit tonight. We understand that people come into this industry and they aren't sure which way to head. You don't want to undergun yourself, but you also don't want to spend too much money because you know how sleazy some of these sales guys can be, especially some of my cohorts here at Coldesi. They're going to tell you too much.
Hey,
no, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. But you want to make sure that you're getting enough, but you don't want to overinvest into the equipment, and you don't know where your business is going to go. So the real process, and I try to lay this out to people, it's really sexy that the marketing guys come up with this idea, we're going to give you 100% trade up for 2 years on your single head. But in reality, hardly anybody ever takes advantage of that on their first machine. All right, it happens, but it's not that frequent. However, we have a lot of people who will come back and buy a second machine. All right, so a year from now, they buy a second single head just because business is pretty good. They can't justify a 4-head. They can't justify a 6-head yet. You go ahead and buy a second single head, and then year 2 comes. This machine is now 23 months old, and they start to evaluate their business and say, you know, I really need a single head, and I really need a 6-head, or I really need a single head. I really need a 4-head. Or maybe your business is so much custom work that what you need is another single head or 2 more single heads. It really helps you to kind of tailor the equipment you have to your business. Now, why do I want a single head and a multi-head? Good question. So the reason we're doing a single head and a multi-head is just what we're doing right here. Over here, we're doing a half dozen Coldesi work shirts, right? So that Mark and I can try not to match again during our webinars. We've only done it once in like a year and a half. And secondarily, so that then when I'm done with these, if I wanted to ID these shirts and say, on this side say Coldesi, and on this side say Don or Mark or Dawn or JR, whatever we wanted on them, all right? Then we can load them into here and do what are called name drops, all right? And a name drop is basically a customization of the shirt. We're kind of taking it a step further because we're also incorporating some of the stuff from Coleman and Company. We're doing patches, right? So if you've ever been into, we don't do it so much here at Coldesi because we keep our employees for a long time, except our marketing guys, because they're really, really burn out quick because they're really crazy. But
no, we're getting interference, Don. I don't know what that is.
But if you were doing like, if you think about a mechanic shop or a quick lube or something like that, you're doing work for. A lot of times they'll use patches, all right? There's actually some patch material you can get that actually is a back, and you can get it actually makes them removable so they can return their uniforms afterward. Or if a company wants to just keep an inventory of garments, right? And they hire somebody and they want this guy to start tomorrow. They can bring this guy in, slap him on a shirt that doesn't have his name on it, but it does say quick lube or whatever it is, and then call you in, get some patches made up with his name on them, hit them with the heat press. In fact, if they're working out of their own business, they can actually just take an iron and press those on and then add that name to it. So that's what we're doing the patches here to kind of show that aspect of to it. But if you're going to do shirts that are a bit more permanent, you would just drop over here, you do your name drops, and then that way you're doing all your customization over here. And it's really easy to do name drops. All you do is you stack the names up on top of each other and treat them each as a color layer. And you put the machine so it's set up in applique mode so that after every color layer it stops. And before you hit the start button, you pop the next shirt in and you sew the shirt. Are there any questions on that? I think I see a hand up here. I don't know whether that hand is up because of a previous question.
Yeah, I think that's left over from when we asked
our
if we had any
residual
customers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I make that go away again, Mark?
This little red button right there. There you go.
Cool. All right. Anytime you guys have questions, I can see the question box down below, so feel free to shoot.
They've got one. What's the difference in the size between the 4-head and the 6-head?
2.
2 heads. Okay.
No, it's a good question. We offer a 4-head, and then if you've looked at our website, this is behind me is a 1506C, just like 1501C. All commercial embroidery machines. Let me reiterate that. If it doesn't have this type of a name, it's probably not a commercial machine. If it's named after some Roman emperor, a sea creature, or something like that,
Or a kind of wind.
or some kind of wind, right? It's probably not a commercial machine. If it's a commercial machine, it's going to have a designation of the number of needles, the number of heads, and any specialty designation. This is a 1501C. 15 needles, 1 head, C for compact. Compact just means in the case of a single head that actually this pantograph goes outside the body of the machine, so it'll go a little bit wider than the actual body. The machine here behind me is a 1506C. And basically that means 15 needles, 6 heads, and it's a compact. What that means on a multi-head, it's the head interval. How wide, how far from center needle plate to needle plate, center to center on the head. It's a compact machine. The 1504 is a standard machine. We don't designate standards because it's the norm. A 1504 is going to have a slightly wider gap here. The largest frame is actually 4 inches wider on it. Really, for anybody who's really doing typical meatball type of embroidery, I call it, this type of work, chest, front chest, standard jacket backs, that type of work, the compacts are sufficient. If you're doing a lot of jacket back work, and we get a lot of this up in the New England area, and people maybe up in the Midwest, then the standard, the 1504 standard is the way to go.
That's actually the next question. Can you do 6 jacket backs on this machine?
You can. You can. The jacket backs, actually the standard jacket backs for this machine, the hoops on this are almost exactly the same. Instead of getting 2 of each, you get 12 of each, right? The standard jacket back is a 12 by 12. There are some aftermarkets that allow you to go a little bit wider. I think it's like a 15.2 or something like that. But these are the standard jacket backs. You can get some aftermarket jacket back. If you want really large jacket backs, the 1504 has a 16 by 16. So it would be a jacket back out about to here and up to here. All right. So if you're doing a lot of jacket back work and it's large jacket back, if you say jacket back too many times, like I am tongue tied. All right. But if you do a lot of big jacket backs, in fact, Mark, we may even have it over here. Is there on there over there? Is it the biggest? No, we don't have the big one. It's a 16 by 16, 4 inches bigger than this. So that would be the way to go. The beauty is, I'm going to jump right now to up to the website. I'm going to show you guys kind of a breakout of why it makes sense and when it makes sense to do multi-heads. I think Mark talked about this a little bit, right? And he said, another question?
Yeah. What about fast frames to help with bags and backpacks?
You absolutely can. You have to buy 6 of them instead of buying 1. All right. Well, oh, you know what? Use the mouse the right way. When you use the mouse upside down, and when you go right, you go left, you go left, you go up, you go down. All right, so I'm going to change you guys over right now to the computer screen. We're going to go away. All right, and we have right here a breakout of what the multiplier, productivity versus price. All right, ballpark range, you're going to spend $11,000 to $12,000 on a single head, right? Straightforward number right there. Now, you jump up to a 4 head, you're paying about 2.5 times the price you would for a single head, okay? However, you're getting 4 times the productivity. This is your cost right here. Your cost per head goes from 11 to 12 to down to around 7-ish, right? When you go up to a 6 head, you're roughly 3 times the price. It's actually slightly less than 3 times the price. You're getting 6 times the productivity, and this is your cost per head.
Right. And I know you've already said it, but if it takes you 10 minutes to sew out one design, then you can do one design every 10 minutes on the single head. On the 6 head, you can do 6 designs every 10 minutes. That's the productivity
difference. So simple, even a marketing guy can understand that, right? So that's for people who are new to the industry. We for some reason we attract a lot of people who are getting new into the business, or people who are migrating into this aspect of apparel decoration. We get a lot of screen printers who are adding embroidery, and they're just trying to get their head wrapped around it. To a screen printer, you add more heads, they think about just being able to do more colors.
Right.
With us, more heads is like having more actual presses, right? And because it's all being done simultaneously, you're actually getting more productivity per hour, per minute out of it. And the job that would be a 240-piece job, if it took you X on a single head, it would take you 240X to get it done. Get a 6 head, it's going to take you 40X. So if it's a job that takes you 10 minutes, it's going to take you 2,400 minutes, right? Versus 60 minutes. I'm sorry, yes, six to that. You know what I'm trying to say.
It's all written down on the website.
It is on the website. But if you guys want to look that out, it's up on the, you go up to the Coldesi website under single head versus multi-head under, where have you got that located at?
It's Avance. It's on the Avance site.
Oh, right there, options for startups. Bang. And you can see why a single head and why a multi-head. And what I'm here to tell you is, when you're starting out, unless you've really got a booming business, let's say you're an embroiderer or a screen printer, and I'm gonna come back to us because I'm so handsome. Come back here live. When you're starting out, unless you've got an existent business, right, where you've got a customer, let's say you're doing a lot of screen printing for somebody, and this customer says, listen, I love the work you're doing for you, but I'm spending like $26,000 a year down at this guy down the road. He's not delivering to me on time. You are so much more diligent about getting the work done. Listen, if you get an embroidery machine, I'm going to give you all my embroidery business, right? So then you want to look at a multi-head to start out with. If you're starting a business, if you're just dipping your toe into embroidery in your screen printing business, your engraving business, it doesn't even have to be a business like that. Maybe, I've got customers who come to us who have golf shops. I have customers who come to us who are, in resort areas, and they're spending a lot of money on embroidery and they're wanting to bring it in-house.
Yeah.
Then you start out with a single head.
I actually talked to a customer on the phone a couple of weeks ago that he's been outsourcing his embroidery for years, and it finally got to the point where his first machine was a 4-head.
It happens. I mean, it's not the norm, but trust. when you talk to your account manager, lay out to them the scenario of what you're trying to do based on your current business. Don't freak out if you feel like, oh, because everybody when it starts their business, they're going to rule the world, right? Be realistic about it when you start into it, and trust in your account manager by letting them know where your market's going to be. Worst case scenario, if you buy one of these and you needed one of these, and you realize it 5 days after you got it, the only thing you wasted was the shipping money. Because we're going to give you 100% trade up from this to this, all right? For 2 full years. That's huge. So as your business grows, we're there to grow with you, all right? But the reality check is what we're showing right here is that long-term and a more traditional embroidery scenario, you need a multi and you're going to need a single to your custom. And guess what? If I wasn't doing customization on these shirts, then I would be doing 7 shirts at a time instead of 6 shirts at a time. Or maybe I get another order I'm doing, banging out some hats over here.
Absolutely.
Get a dozen hats to do. So that's kind of a breakout on, why a multi and why a single together, or when a multi to start out, or when just a single or multiple singles. If your business is in a boutique where you're doing big lettering on Vera Bradley bag and you're just swamped, you need 2 single heads.
Right.
So you're doing an L and an S. Laverne and Shirley.
That's a good way to put it.
That's a good way. Right? So Frank, there is video. I think you're the only one seeing. You need to kind of exit and come back in, right? You probably caught it when you.
Okay, let's click out and click back.
We're gonna click out and click back in.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you all seeing the screen now? That's the internet page. Single head versus multi-head. Mary and Frank specifically. Can you hear me now?
Okay, good.
Yes,
okay, now switch back to video.
Okay.
We'll check it again.
I'm going to go back to video, Frank. Now.
Are you sure you're just not blocking out the image of Don?
There you go.
Okay, great.
Okay, good. And Mary, you guys see me now? Can you all see me now that I've changed back? Now I see the blank page. Yeah, you probably need to exit that. Are you on a mobile device or a pad or something like that? Because there are probably right now we have
a bunch of people.
We have 18 or 20 people here right now, and I'm only hearing from a couple of y'all. And I'm seeing hands up.
Okay.
All right.
Everybody's good.
All right, good. Everybody's back.
I'm just scroll that down so we can see.
Did we get any other questions in there?
Nope.
All right. All right, click webcam and go back. I see you. Okay, thanks, guys. Cool. All right. Hey, so when we got you guys up here, shoot some questions at us. Marky, how do I make those go away?
You hit the little garbage bucket there. Just delete.
All right. We know you see us. All right, and there's a question.
What is the price of the 4-head versus the 6-head?
You're looking at roughly $29 and $35 for the 4-head and the 6-head. All right, that's the multiplier action that we were showing right there. One thing that's different when you get a multi-head, and this is a good question that's going to come up, is somebody who started out with a single head. When we set you up with a single head, we assume you're a starter, right? And so you get everything. When you buy a multi-head, it's kind of a la carte. You will need to buy thread. You will need to get backings and stuff like that. Upside to a multi-head is when you buy it, we send a technician out to you. He's going to spend 2 days with you. And if you've already got a single head, right, and you buy a multi, when the tech comes in, he sets up your multi, just say, hey, listen, take an hour, go over the single. They'll do it for you. They don't care.
Right.
Right, they're there. They want you to be productive. And trust me, you won't use them the full 2 days in training. You're going to spend the first couple hours setting the machine up, leveling it, getting it hooked up and threaded up. Again, here, some advice. This is a side sermon over here. We'll tell you about it. If you order a multi-head, right, and it comes in, take the time to go ahead and thread it. Because if we send Bernardo out to you, you don't want him to spend 2.5 hours threading your machine.
Yeah. You
want him to spend those 2.5 hours training you and setting the machine up, right? So, but we don't, you're going to need to buy your own thread and stuff on a multi-head. And because there's a lot of spools. There's 90 spools back here, right? Delete.
What is the learning curve?
It's the amount of time it takes you to be able to understand and operate the machine. Next question. No, learning curve on it. Are you, is that Shandy? Shandy, are you already embroidering now? Can you hear me, Shandy? Are you already doing embroidery now from like a single head or something like that?
If you are, then it's easy.
The difference between a multi-head and a single head, right? It says,
Some, but looking for a new machine.
okay, great. So if you're working with a single head, it's about planning a little bit more. It's one of the reasons most people run with the table up on a multi-head. What you would do is you would actually have the next set of hoops, and literally as I'm getting near the end of this job, I would have my next 6 shirts loaded up, sitting right here on the table, and as soon as it stops, pop, 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 hit the start button and then move them away.
Yeah.
In terms of operation, now you're going to do 6 times as much oiling, right? But other than that, 6 times as much cleaning of the machine.
Well, let's step backward, Shandy, just in case you're just starting out with a single head commercial machine.
Yep.
Then you can go on. I showed you where to find the self-paced training.
Right.
You can go through and see what that's like and watch the videos. But most of our customers on the single head, the vast majority, have never touched a commercial embroidery machine before.
It's actually, because the machines are designed to run in a commercial environment, the only things you really do every day, there's a couple oil points you'll hit every day, and the things you have to be diligent about is oiling the hook. The oiling of the hook you do every 4 hours of operation. So it's more like engine time.
Honestly, right? I really find some of the high-end consumer machines a lot more difficult to figure out just because there's a big LCD display and all kinds and I can do fonts and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Right. But no, it's not, if you've done embroidery before, it's about getting a workflow down a little bit more and being prepared ahead with 6 instead of 1. But other than that, it's very much the same. It's actually a little bit more convenient because you can actually lay the next thing right here on the table and have it ready to go. But other than that, it's an embroidery machine. Thread breaks are the same. Detection of thread breaks are the same. Bobbins are the same.
Digitizing is all the same.
That is all the same. It's just a matter of how much you rock and roll when you're actually in production.
Can a multi-head run independently, or do all 6 machines need to run at the same time?
Good question. Independent? No. Less than 6? Less than 4? Yes. These heads are all going to show the same thing. But if I was doing an order that wasn't a multiple of 6, let's say that the last was 5 or 3, there's a switch right here on each of the heads that I can turn off. All right, and it's going to then disengage that head. So if I had to do 11, I would do a 6 and a 5. I would turn one of the heads off, and it would not sew on that head. It would still be being toted along with the rest. Because this is all one solid piece, right? Yeah. It's all being moved together. All right.
Yeah. So Tracy, you said you've got 2 single heads. Just imagine being able to hoop up 6 garments at a time.
Right.
And then pressing the button and walking away.
That's the big part. It's literally a multiplier. And the concept of multiple single heads being productive just crashes into a wall at about 3 units.
Yeah.
It's where the individual operator, the family that we work for here, has been in this industry for well over 40 years. And they have sold multi-head operations. They've sold multiple single-head operations. They've done the homework on this. For the average operator, between 2 and 3 units is when you start to hit a curve where there's no more efficiency. And it's the same thing when you get into bigger operators. I had a customer I was talking to the other day was asking about a 12-head. We don't carry a 12-head. Why? Because, number one, there are very few people in the world who are competent enough to run a 12-head.
And they're huge.
They're huge. They require 3-phase. Secondarily, 2 6s are roughly maybe $5,000 more than even the cheapest 12-head would ever be.
Right.
However, I can stagger them. Get 6 going, then get the next 6 going. So I'm continually in a workflow where I'm going, and if I get a thread break, I only have 6 heads stopping instead of 12 heads stopping.
Mary Frances wants to know if it comes with digitizing software.
For the single head, it does. For multi-head, like I said, everything is kind of carte blanche. The upside is it's less than $1,000 when you buy digitizing software. And in fact, I think if they're running a promo right now, if you buy the digitizing software new with the machine, it's another $150 off, like $800 for digitizing software.
And Mary, in just a moment, when we reintroduce Mark Vila and talk about the patch kit and the single head, he's going to give you a little dog and pony show on the software.
You may want to go wake him up.
So you see what that's like.
Right. Other questions on the machines? I mean, it's basically 6 head, all of the hoops frame stuff, just multiply it by 6. There's one Mac Daddy of a large frame like this, it's called a sash frame, that you can put on this. If you're doing really large items, if you're doing a lot of patches where you can have it sewing a large piece of patch material, if you were doing some kind of big sign, you can actually send the job over and turn those heads off sequentially. because they actually will allow you to sew every inch of this from point to point there, so you can actually do really big stuff with it one
That's
continuum.
interesting. Arnaldo wants to know, can this machine run Wilcom software?
Correct. Good question, and I kind of neglect to say it. It's a commercial machine. All of these commercial machines are going to work on a DST file, which I'm 150% certain that Wilcom.
Yeah, it doesn't care what software we're using.
It doesn't care. You know, and if you've got an older machine, or if you got like a home machine, like a Brother or something like that, where you have one of the Brother formats, you get the digitizing software. It'll import all the major Husqvarna, Brother, Baby Lock, all those file formats from those software packages. You'll be able to import into the Stitch Era Liberty software, and then you'll be able to export it out as a DST to sell.
Yep.
Other questions?
Are you able to do shoes on the single head?
Yes, depends on the shoe. You can use standard attachments. There is an aftermarket. I think it's kind of expensive. If I was going to do shoes, I would probably use some kind of clamping system. But unless you're doing something like a really hard-sided shoe, like a soccer shoe, there is an attachment. It's around $2,500 to do that. But if you're doing like Chucks or something like that, which you're not allowed to say on live TV,
okay.
You know, canvas type of shoes, you would absolutely be able to do it just with a good clamping system. You know, or you could do it with fast frames. You'd have to babysit it a bit. But there's some aftermarket clamps like Hoop Tech and something that would hold that. You get a lot of calls, Shandy, for shoes. Just curious. I mean, it's not something there. I mean, I know some places that it is. There's a demand. You know, you can do a tongue. I've had people ask to do a tongue.
Tongue of the shoe.
You know, they put what's that? Who? But no, I mean, there is the ability to do. When you're embroidering on something, and I say this about a lot of machines, when you're embroidering on it, you just have to be slightly smarter than the item you're trying to decorate. And in a lot of cases, that may mean I had a customer who does some luggage, right? And not like Mark, they don't have baggage, they have luggage.
Wow.
And what they do is they'll actually hold it. They're doing it on the baggage, but they're just doing like 3 initials, and they'll hold it. And they've actually talked about building a table that'll hold it that they can slide back and forth on. You just got to be smarter than the items you're starting to embroider on.
Like that.
Most of the time, what you find, obnoxious items, it's not the area you're sewing that's the problem. It's the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
So just being smarter than that. I've had customers who have compact do a lot of Carhartts, and they actually take and they will put up to the ceiling bungee cord with clips on them, and they'll actually have them like wings. They'll actually be holding the arms of it up a little bit to bear the weight.
All right, guys. Any last questions before we talk a little bit about software and doing patches, which is something that you're going to definitely want a single head for, and that will make you a little extra money with every job.
I do want to say one thing. You know, you guys who were here when you couldn't hear Mark, there were 7 embroidery heads running behind him. We have a pretty sensitive microphone, right? And in fact, I think before we go, why don't we let it run a little bit? We got some new bodies here that have shown up. We're going to hit the start button.
So this is very quiet for a commercial 6-head. 7 heads now running.
7 heads running.
Let's actually zoom in a little bit. There we go. And you can see.
There you go, Mark talking.
You can see the control panel. You get the real-time view. And over in that other corner behind Don, showing out on patches. We'll go over and take a look at that. Sorry if you get motion sick. My apologies.
Hey, it's better than we didn't have wheels.
Good point. Can you turn off the light? It's a little easier to see actually. Yeah, sure. All right, so not silent, but very quiet for a quarter.
There's 7 heads running. Barely
all right.
Feeling.
There we go, and now we are going to.
Other questions? Any other questions pop? I think I did see a couple more popped up here. Nope.
I think they were all excited.
All right. Any last questions on the multi-head or on the single head before we turn it over to Mark Vila?